Just close your eyes. Know the peace within.
Why are you here? You are yet to know why are you here. You do not know what you are, so you simply take the waking state to be real, to be real. You do not know what you are. You take yourself to be a form, appearing and disappearing. Hence, constant fear of losing the form. You never know that you are ever here. Your presence is throughout. You are yet to know what you are. To know what you are, you need to go inward. Why you need to go inward? Because without going inwardly, with eyes open, you accept whatever perceived within space to be real, to be real. You are yet to know the reality within you. Within space, everything is constantly changing, changing, changing. You take whatever that changes to be real, to be real, to be real. So you are under constant fear of losing things around you. You are yet to know that you are beyond matter. You are yet to know that matter is not you. You are yet to know that whatever that happens spontaneously within space are not yourself. By not knowing what yourself is, by not knowing what your consciousness is, you are continuously trapped at the duality level. You accept yourself to be a form, not knowing the consciousness within. Unless you go inwardly, you cannot know the consciousness within. Truth is beyond duality. And here, within duality, every object is appearing and disappearing at a greater speed, and it makes you believe as if everything is stationary here, including your form. But you do not know how the form happens, but for your consciousness. Unless you are conscious, you cannot know the form. Not only your form, every form around you. So in your consciousness only, every forms appear just now, just now. You will never know this secret also. At the form level identity, your consciousness accepts itself to be a different form from the other forms. So constantly it is competing, comparing, debating, arguing, and it never remains peaceful. It remains always restless because your consciousness does not know that it is consciousness prior to form. To know that you are prior to form, that you are prior to duality, you have to close your eyes. Once your eyes are open, the movie happens spontaneously. The same moment you are trapped by the movie, to be real, to be real. The reality is beyond duality, prior to form. Truth is formless. To know the formless in you, to know the truth in you, you need to go beyond duality, and you need not go beyond duality because you are already prior to duality. Only the form happens within duality. With the arrival of the form, you come to your consciousness comes to know that it is as I amness. Your consciousness knows its presence as I amness. But the consciousness is prior to duality. The form only happens within duality. So your consciousness is yet to know that it is consciousness, and it always identifies itself to be a person with a fixed label. As long as your consciousness is identifying itself to be a person, to be a form, it cannot remain peaceful. So only a realized says, go within and find out what you are. You are here not only during the waking state, but prior to waking state, prior to dream state, and prior to sleep state. None of the states are yourself. You are prior to all the states that happen and disappear. You are neither the happening nor the disappearances. You are ever here. Nothing has never happened to you. But this secret you are yet to know, you are yet to explore it. You cannot explore the secret about yourself as long as you are roaming within duality, accepting the form to be yourself. Just now, your consciousness. In your consciousness only, the world happens, the cosmos happens, the galaxy happens, entire manifestation and all the objects have happened just now in your consciousness. Your consciousness is yet to know that it is only consciousness. By not knowing that it is consciousness, it is continuously trapped at the form level identities. Once your consciousness accepts the form to be itself, though it is prior to the arrival of the form, and forms happen only out of itself, your consciousness remains totally ignorant about itself. Your consciousness never knows that it is the source of the entire manifestation. It is the source of all objects within space. So even if you live for millions of years, within space, though you appear to be a form, constantly you remain under constant struggle. Here, nothing is stationary and everything is constantly changing, and you want peacefulness within this duality which is constantly changing. You never know that there is a state which is prior to the arrival of the duality. That you can know only by closing eyes, because with eyes open, you only perceive things within space. When eyes are closed, you are prior to space. That's why when your eyes are closed, you don't see any object. Prior to space, there's no matter, there's no movement. Now you come to know the stillness within. This stillness is the beginning of the journey. In this stillness, there's only peacefulness and joyfulness. And the entire world also happens only out of it. This stillness indicates the light within, and the more you abide in stillness, you get to know that entire manifestation is only reflected in space out of the light by the elemental interaction, which happens spontaneously. Here there are no persons. All forms are only by consciousness. All forms are only conscious forms. By not knowing that your consciousness is only consciousness, remain tensed depressed and frustrated throughout the waking state. You do not know why you are here. You are yet to know why you are here. And you are yet to know that you are ever here. How will you know that you are the eternal, ever-present, non-dual, the ultimate reality, without transcending the duality, without knowing the stillness within, without going inwardly, without abiding in stillness? It is impossible for your consciousness to know that it is ever present here. By accepting the form to be itself, your consciousness constantly fears about the concept of losing the form. Your consciousness never knows that it is ever present. Your consciousness is infinite. It has got no limitations. It has got no boundaries. It is prior to form, prior to words, prior to time, prior to space. Yet it is not aware of itself. Why? Because your consciousness is never conscious of itself. So, by continuously accepting every events, every happening to be real within duality, your consciousness is under constant struggling. Your consciousness is yet to know that it is only consciousness. This is the first point. By knowing that it is only consciousness, beyond space, beyond words, beyond form, your consciousness remains relaxed as you are now inwardly. Your consciousness remains so peaceful and joyful inwardly. This is only the beginning of the journey. To know that why you are here, you must stabilize inwardly constantly. Note this point. To know that you are ever present here, your consciousness needs to stabilize inwardly constantly. By knowing, yes, I am only consciousness beyond words, your consciousness starts waking up from the perceived dream. But it has to complete its wakefulness. How? Only by knowing the peace constantly within. Once your consciousness abides and settles in the stillness constantly, wakefulness is certain. The more it abides in stillness, the more the wakefulness. The more the stillness, the more the wakefulness. Your consciousness spontaneously wakes up totally, and it transcends the duality show, and it knows that it never dies, it is ever present. And your consciousness knows that whatever perceived so far within duality in space are not real. Your consciousness knows that it is only the ever present reality, and by merging totally into the awareness, your consciousness knows its absolute reality beyond duality, beyond birth and death, and declares that I am ever present here. Nothing has never happened to me. I am I am neither born nor I can die, and whatever that appeared as birth or death at the form level identities within duality is not myself. It is only an absolute dream, not by me, but by the play of the elements out of light of consciousness. Your consciousness knows its eternal reality beyond duality by abiding in stillness constantly. Now your consciousness knows its eternal beauty beyond duality. Earlier, your consciousness was suffering, struggling at the duality level show, as it was yet to know that it is only consciousness. The moment your consciousness is conscious of itself, it starts knowing, yes, I am non-dual, the observer, beyond duality, beyond identification, beyond space, beyond form, and nothing has never happened to me. Your consciousness, which remained tensed at the duality show by not knowing that it is consciousness, now knows that it is ever present, eternal, the absolute, the wholeness. How? Only by abiding in the stillness constantly. Why? Because the stillness is in the non-dual level. At the non-dual level, you are ever here, and whatever perceived within duality is not yourself. It is only a reflection of yourself. This you will come to know by abiding constantly within stillness. So the stillness is the key to the door of your eternal nature. Now your consciousness knows why it is here. I am telling you that your consciousness is yet to know its original, supreme, non-dual observer state beyond duality. But how will your consciousness know without transcending the duality, without staying beyond words? The very purpose of your being here is to know what you are exactly, to know your wholeness beyond divisions, beyond duality. You are the non-dual absolute truth just now. You are more than consciousness just now. But you get to know your existence as I amness only through conscious level. Once you are conscious of yourself, you see the world around you and immediately you are trapped by the world that happens within your consciousness. You never know that the world is happening out of your consciousness. You assume and accept that the world is already there and you are very late to the world. So you are constantly competing with the world, comparing the worldly things, and remain restless throughout the waking state. Once your consciousness goes inward and abides in stillness, the same moment it knows the peace within, the joy within, and it knows that it is only consciousness, and knows that only out of consciousness everything is happening. If you are not conscious, there's nothing called the world. Only in your consciousness the world happens. Everything begins from your I amness consciousness. Everything happens in your I amness consciousness. And everything disappears too in your I amness consciousness. Once you know that your consciousness contains all, you will not fight with the world, neither you can have any conflict with the world. You will be more friendly with the world, be more loving, because the world is not separate from you. This is only the first step. The second step is your consciousness, which happens for a shorter duration, say throughout the waking state, does not know what happens to it in the deep sleep state. You are conscious of yourself only by morning 5 or so, till night 11 or so. After that, you do not know what happened to you. Suddenly you become conscious of yourself. Suddenly you become no more conscious of yourself. This shows that there is a state which prevails prior to the arrival of this consciousness. From where this consciousness happens and from where the consciousness merges back. That state which prevails prior to the arrival of the consciousness is the awareness, the absolute, the wholeness, the eternal, the ultimate, the supreme, unexplainable, indescribable, non-dual state. So your consciousness should know what it is and why it is here and how it is getting trapped by the perceived show and how all objects are reflected in space and how it is missing the peace and joy within without going inwardly. Your consciousness is already the non-dual only, and it knows its presence at the form level identity within duality. So duality is needed to know your presence as I amness. But for duality, your presence cannot be known as I amness. So duality is only to know yourself. But your consciousness completely forgets about its non-dual original state, and it keeps on accepting itself at the form level identity and get tensed, and it remains depressed by accepting each and every frame of the show or movie to be real. How long your consciousness can remain restless and depressed? Though it is non-dual, prior to space, it is prior to all the events and happenings, and prior to the form itself, and prior to the space itself. But it remains tensed because of the perceived show in which all objects appear to move here and there. So your consciousness remains restless by not knowing itself. Then, only after meeting a realized, your consciousness knows that it is only very much within and not outside, and only by abiding in the stillness within, it can get to know its wholeness, the supreme richness. Only a realized can indicate you and tells you that you are that, you are the absolute, you are the non-dual, you are the only reality, you are the supreme reality. This can be said only by the realized. Otherwise, your consciousness unnecessarily get trapped by whatever that is perceived in space. So, meeting a realized and listening to the realized words are most essential in this duality. Otherwise, you will stuck at the duality level itself, not knowing the non-dual in you. Only a realized can take you beyond duality and make you aware of your non-dual supreme richness. Only a realized says that you are already that and you are always that. Because the words are coming straight from the source. Realized means the source itself, the source of consciousness, the awareness, the absolute. The absolute knows what this consciousness is and how this consciousness happens and how the play goes on, and there's no reality in any of the frame that is perceived. So, your consciousness, which remains tensed at the form level identity, can remain peaceful and joyful by going inwardly and settling down within stillness, and it can wake up at any moment totally and know that it is already that. The essence is that you are already that. Once you are conscious of yourself, you identify too much with the perceived object and fail to know what you are. So only realized statements or words or teachings helps your consciousness to wake up totally, not partially, and make you aware of what you are. Once your consciousness knows its absolute richness, it remains free from the perceived show. Till your consciousness knows its absolute richness, it remains tensed. At the form level identity, your consciousness remains tensed because it is afraid of losing the form by accepting the form to be itself. But at the conscious level, by going inwardly and stabilizing in the stillness constantly, your consciousness wakes up. Your consciousness wakes up from what? From the perceived form level show. And it knows its absolute richness. Yes, I am that. I am more than consciousness. And the consciousness and its play is not me. Your absolute state remains forever, and you are ever present here. Now your consciousness knows why it is here. When? Only after listening to the realized words. Earlier, your consciousness is taking the duality to be real, to be real, to be real. Only a realized takes you inwardly and tells you that you are the non-dual, you are not the duality. Whatever that perceived in duality is not yourself, it is not real. Better stabilize inwardly and remain conscious constantly and wake up. Only upon waking you come to know whatever perceived within duality was only a dream or not real. But without waking up, without going inwardly, how can your consciousness knows its fullness, knows its wholeness? So the very purpose of your being here is to wake up and know what you are. To wake up from what? From the perceived dream. Dream means all objects appearing, moving and disappearing. Just now, you are only observing the dream. Once you know that you are only observing whatever that happens in duality, the same moment you are free from the show, you are free from the dream, you are free from the movie. But your consciousness can free itself from all identification only when it is conscious of itself. That's why I go on emphasize your consciousness to be conscious of itself. The moment you are conscious of yourself, the very purpose of your being here is solved, because the same moment your consciousness starts waking up and getting relieved from the perceived show and knows, yes, I have got nothing to do with the perceived dream. I was only observing the dream called birth and death. To be real, as I was not aware of myself. Now, your consciousness wakes up totally and knows that it is neither born nor can it die. Your consciousness knows its eternity and its ever-present supreme reality only by abiding in the stillness beyond words constantly and being conscious of itself constantly. Otherwise, again and again, it is trapped by the perceived dream. As long as it is identifying itself to be the dream, your consciousness remains sleep. The moment it closes the eyes and knows the peace within and starts knowing the stillness within, the same moment it starts waking up from the perceived show and remains so joyful and peaceful. And through constant observation, through constant peacefulness, your consciousness wakes up to know that nothing has never happened. See, you are eternal and you are beyond birth and death. But once you are conscious of yourself, you get into the concept of birth and death. To be real, though they are not real, like a dream. So till your consciousness wakes up, it is trapped by its own projection and accepts the unreal to be real. So it remains tensed. So the very purpose of your being here, your being means your consciousness here, is to know what it is exactly. And your consciousness remains complete only by transcending the duality, only by remaining free from the identification, free from the form level identities, and freeing itself from the words. Very easily your consciousness can know its unborn, eternal, absolute truth. I am here only to help your consciousness, to wake up your consciousness, which is sleeping conveniently within duality, by accepting the duality to be real, to be real. I help you to know the reality within, which is beyond duality, so that you can abide in the reality constantly through stillness and get to know the supreme reality beyond duality. and remain free, utterly relaxed, totally relaxed from the perceived show. To know that you are ever, ever present here. Now you know why you are here.